I love that song. Hello, everyone. Hello. This morning, as you heard, we are going to enjoy 1 Kings chapter 19. But as you heard, 1 Kings 19 begins in 1 Kings 18. It begins with Elijah confronting the priests or the prophets, the priests of Baal. He confronts them and wins. So the priests of Baal have like one altar and Elijah has another altar, and they set up the altars, and the test is this: who's going to be able to set fire to the altar without actually starting a fire? So the priests, they try and they sing and they chant and they do all sorts of weird stuff, but it doesn't work. Nothing happens. Elijah, on the other hand, in order to prove the power of God, grabs buckets of water, chucks it over his wood and his sacrifice, and then in what looks like just one simple prayer, fire comes down from heaven and his altar almost like explodes. Boom, it goes up in flames, and it's clear to everyone that Elijah and Elijah's God are real, and Baal is just nothing. And so everyone starts screaming and shouting, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. The God of Israel, the God of Elijah is the true God. Forget Baal. And Elijah tells them, grab the priests of Baal. So everyone grabs the priests of Baal, and they kill them all. And I think there's like 300 or 400 of them. I can't quite remember. But they all die right there. And it's a clear and powerful and important victory in Israel, which continuously runs away from God, that the God of Israel is real. For you and I, killing a bunch of people is not the way to show anything holy. But for the people in an ancient world where everything was a lot scarier than it is today, power, victory, these are the things that people used to evaluate whether God was God or whether God was just stories. And here they saw that God is real. And that victory showed that it's real. So Elijah, the prophet, seeing this amazing victory of God, seeing this power of God, gets super excited. All right? He's on a high. Right? This is like, woo, this is brilliant. Everything's amazing. The whole country is going to come to faith. This is going to be a big revival. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. And he goes to Ahab and he speaks to him. And he's like, you better get ready. Ahab legs it, right? Which is a British expression for he runs really fast and tries to get to his wife, Jezebel. Because Ahab really is not wearing the genes in his family. Jezebel is. So he runs off to Jezebel to let her know what's happened. Elijah here, it says, and I'm going to enjoy this illustration. I enjoyed it yesterday. I'll do it again. Christian, could you stand up, please, for everyone? Okay? So Elijah, it says, tucking his cloak... No, just Christian. Just him. That's fine. Tucking his cloak into his belt, ran ahead of Ahab. So everyone in the ancient time would dress like Christian with a big long robe. In order to run fast, you have to tuck your robe into your belt. Otherwise, you're, as ladies here I'm sure know, wearing a long dress means you can't run very fast. So he tucked up his thing, and he ran so fast, he beat Ahab to get to the Jezreel Valley. Why is Elijah running so fast? Because he wants to see this victory of God. He wants to see Jezebel finally brought down from power. He believes this is it. The country is going to go through a revival. So when he finds out that Ahab didn't go to Jezebel and say, hey, look, the God of Israel's real. I saw this amazing miracle. This is it. We have to, it has to be the God of Israel. When he realizes that didn't happen. But what Ahab did was go, oh, mommy, Elijah was a naughty boy, right? Essentially. Telling her that Elijah did this and Elijah did that and he was not nice. And when Elijah gets the message from Jezebel that in fact this Baal-worshipping queen is still in power and she's going to try and kill him, he goes from being on like a super high to being completely despairing. He's like, oh, all the things that I thought were going to happen, all of this stuff, this revival that I thought was going to take place, doesn't happen. Nothing ever happens. Nothing's ever going to change. Oh my goodness. And he gets super depressed and very sort of like inside himself. And he runs. He runs from Jezebel. The guy who, if you're reading through 1 Kings, it seemingly it's like 5 minutes ago, this guy was calling fire down from heaven and getting rid of Baal worship completely in Haifa on Mount Carmel. Now he's in the Jezreel Valley, and one threat of one person is enough to just completely take away all hope and all belief that God is with him. And he runs. So this is where Elijah is when we come to 1 Kings chapter 19. Yeah? He's gone from super high to super depressed, despairing, oh, woe is me, the end of the world, and he runs. And he runs off down south. Now, the person that seemingly gets ignored, except for one verse, is his servant, right? He runs off with his servant. He leaves his servant at Beersheba, which is actually the southernmost point of the kingdom at that point, leaves him at Beersheba, and then walks off into the desert by himself. And there, in the desert, under a tree, says, God, kill me. That's it. I've had enough. It's all over. And he says, I'm no better than my ancestors. Right? I don't really believe. I don't really have... I'm done. I'm gone. Right? It's not working. I'm finished. And like the people of Israel, in the desert, God feeds him. Right? And he brings him water. If you look here in the... where are we now? Yeah, in verses 5, 6, he sits there down under the tree, and God brings him water, and God brings him bread to keep him alive, to sustain him. But then something begins, there's a turning point, and we see it here in what's happening. Like Israel, he receives the bread and the water in the desert from God. God provides for him. But then now he's going to do something like Moses. And I think this is kind of an author's wink to the reader to say now we're going to start bringing Elijah back to be the prophet that he's supposed to be, instead of the, pathetic sheep that doesn't know what to do with his life in the earlier verses. And like Moses, for 40 days and 40 nights, he does not eat and goes to the mountain. Moses didn't eat for 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain, but this is Elijah not doing that. On the way to the mountain, he gets to the mountain of God, and again, like Moses, Moses hid in a cleft of the rock, but here Elijah hides in a cave, getting ready to speak to the God of Israel. So we've got some parallels here with Israel and with Moses. Elijah finally, in the cave, is waiting for God. And then what happens? In verse 9, it says, there he went into a cave and spent the night, like we said, and the word of the Lord came to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? What's up with you? And so Elijah pours, God already knows, right? It's a rhetorical question, but Elijah pours his heart out to the God of Israel. And he says this, the Israelites have rejected your covenant, they've broken down your altars, and they've put your prophets to death with the sword. They've broken the deal. They've broken the way that you have agreed to meet with them at the altars. And they've killed the prophets, the people who are there to remind them to stick to the deal. To remind them that there is an agreement between God and Israel. Right? So basically what he's saying is, the people of Israel have destroyed all of the things that connect them in relationship with you. And I'm the last prophet, Elijah believes, and they want to kill me. So you know what? I'm done. Right? All of this stuff that you've set up, they've completely rejected it all. I'm done. Elijah has gone from seeing the amazing power of God to getting to a place where he thinks that God is powerless. Because the people are gone, the altars are gone, the prophets are gone, I'm the last one. What's going on? He says this to God, and when I say the word of the Lord, here it's sort of like Elijah kind of hearing it in his mind's ear, in his heart. He's hearing God speak to him. But then, in the word of the Lord, the God says to him, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. So what he's saying is, you're about to go from hearing me in your heart to actually seeing me and hearing me with your audible, using, hearing ears. Okay? That's what's going to happen. And then after God says that to him in his heart, Elijah sits there and begins to see God showing up. And the first thing he sees is a wind that smashes rocks. Right? I've never actually seen a wind that smashes rocks, but this wind blows through the mountain and smashes rocks. Then he feels the earth quake beneath him, and again, I'm sure rocks are smashing and things are falling. Yeah? Then he sees a fire burning. These are all images and pictures of God's mighty power to strengthen Elijah, to encourage Elijah, to wake Elijah the heck up from being, oh no, poor me. And he's like, boom, this is God. He's showing up to speak to Elijah. Then, God was not in any of these. That was just his power. Then God actually shows up and he hears the whisper. And when Elijah hears that, he recognizes the voice from the God that he has spoken to and that has spoken to him, and goes out to the edge of the cave. So he's seeing all of this from inside his cave. He hears the voice, goes out to the edge of the cave, covers up his face, because people back then especially believed that if you see God, you're going to die. So he covers up his face in fear and stands there before the God of Israel, and God says, okay, Elijah, we're going to do this again. Why are you here? But despite this stuff, Elijah again tells God the same thing. He says, they've broken your covenant. They've done this. They've done that. And I'm the last one left. And it's there, in the presence of God's power and in the presence of his voice, he hears God tell him, dude, everything's fine. I'm going to send you to anoint a foreign king, and he'll deal with the people. And if he doesn't, I'm going to send you to anoint a new king of Israel, and he will deal with all the people that have left me. And you know what? If those two don't deal with it, I'm going to send you to anoint a new prophet, Elisha, and he will deal with the people. So to the three issues that the people of Israel, that Elijah brings about the people of Israel, God brings him three solutions. A foreign king, a local king, and a prophet. And he says, they're all going to deal with it. And just so you know, there are 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal. I'm in charge, is what God is trying to communicate to Elijah. He's trying to tell him, I'm in charge, so you have every reason to trust me. You have every reason to trust me and to follow me and to do what I say and to not be afraid of the Jezebels of this world. Now, after this whole story has taken place, Elijah went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Now, see the field? There's oxen. Each plow is connected to 2 oxen, and they're driving them. Elisha has the last pair. And if you see 12, by the way, it's often a number that's just telling us, the people of Israel. So, there's Elisha, he's on the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Now that's a way of saying, dude, you're with me, right? Come hang out with me. Come follow me. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elijah. Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, he said, and then I will come with you. Go back, Elijah replied. What have I done to you? I can hear Israelis today. Ma'asiti lecha. Yeah? Well, what have I done to you? What? What do you want from me? Yeah? So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and became his attendant. Now, when I first read this, I remember thinking to myself, hang on, Elisha went back? That's not good. That's not right. He was supposed to, the intention, what's implied in Elijah's question is, don't go back. That's not following me. But what Elisha does, I think, is even more hardcore than what Elijah initially wanted him to do. Elijah essentially saying, don't go back. Following me is following me. But Elisha went back and said, you know what? I'm not going to say goodbye to my mom and my dad. I'm going to do one better. I'm going to take my oxen that I work with, and I'm going to take all the equipment that I work with here in this field, and I'm going to burn it all and kill it all, and I'm going to completely cut off my past life. Because now that I'm going to go with Elijah, I want nothing connecting me back to where I'm from. This is my call, and I'm going to follow it radically, and I'm going to get rid of everything that's behind me. Now come with me to Luke chapter 9. And tell me if you think that Jesus read the book of 1 Kings. Go to verse 61. So Jesus here is telling people, come, follow me. And this guy in verse 61 says this. Still another said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Chapter 9, verse 61. Let me go back and say goodbye to my family. And Jesus replied, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Almost plucking it out of this story from Elijah and Elisha, Jesus is saying, no one who starts working in the field of God, goes back to the old field. Right? In the same way that Elisha completely disconnected from his past life and decided to follow Elijah, that is how you, Jesus is saying, need to disconnect from your old world and from your old ways and from your old life when you decide to follow Jesus. Now, this is not just, you've got to do this, right? You've got to be radical. You've got to go. But this chapter sets you up for that radical call to follow God by telling you about Elijah, by telling you about his doubts, by telling you about his despair, by telling you about the fact that this great prophet of God, who saw God's great miracles before him, struggled with the same doubts and the same despair and the same issues that all of us struggle with. Today, it almost feels as if the church is being attacked from all sides. On one hand, sometimes we're feeling attacked because, the liberal world, the world that the atheists are coming, they're going to come and tell us this and tell us that and tell us, gay marriage, everyone's freaking out in America. And then on the other side, ISIS are coming, the Muslims are coming, they're all going to kill us, we're all going to die. And we feel this attack and this despair, and how can I follow Jesus in this world, and how can I do this, how can I do that? But I believe God, in all of this noise, is trying to tell us, I've got the wind, I've got the earthquakes, I've got the fire, I've got the power, I've got the people out there who have not bowed the knee to Baal. I'm in charge. I'm in control. So you can radically follow Jesus because he has got everything that you need. And if the miracles of Elijah aren't enough, and if the power of God in your own life to change who you are has not been enough, there's always the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The one powerful act that has made it all, that has provided it all for our lives as followers of Jesus. There's no need to doubt, and there's no need to worry, and there's no need to despair. Keep looking at Jesus, and keep remembering that he's there.